Okay, Super Scholars, welcome to video 2 of your second day of second grade. Great job finishing our community video, and now it's time for Zoom expectations. So yesterday we talked about in this video how it's so important for us to have rules on Zoom because it's all about respecting each other's time because it's limited the time that we have together on Zoom, and being able to get what we need to get done and those small times we have on Zoom. Our Zoom meetings are so precious, so we need to make sure we are all on the same page and we all have the expectations so we can learn and have as much fun as possible in our Zoom meetings. So yesterday we learned about our first 3 Zoom rules. So today, what our goal is, it's going to be, I can identify our Zoom rules, number 4 and 5. Remember I said we were learning them in 2 parts, and we have rule number 4 and rule number 5 left to learn today. By the end of today, you're going to be able to identify, to know, all 5 of our Zoom rules. But before we can go on to learning our last 2, we need to review the ones we talked about yesterday. 1, 2, and 3. And remember, we did mirror words with all of them to help us with our memory. We used the mirror words copy game. So to review them real quick, I know we did them on Zoom, but let's review them again. All 3 of them with our movements. Are you ready to do them with me? I want to hear your voice nice and loud. Okay, here we go. And mirror words. Rule number 1. Be ready when duty calls. Rule number 2. Sit in a super learning spot. Rule number 3, dress for success. Mirrors down. There we go. Good job. You guys are getting so great at mirror words. I'm super excited for us to use that game a little bit more whenever we can. Okay, so now that we reviewed our first 3 rules, we got to add on 2 more. So let me introduce to you rule number 4. Rule number 4 says, keep your face in the space. We've got a little computer screen here, and we've got a Super Scholar with their face in the screen. Rule number 4 is keep your face in the space. This rule means that I want to see your face on Zoom. And I want you to be seated nice and straight, sitting up to where we can see you. That means that there's no laying down and plopping around and moving around on Zoom. We are there in our time to learn and be together, and so I want to see everyone's face because I don't get to see it all the time. So when we're there, I want to make sure that I can see it. Also, keeping your face in the space means that you are staying in our Zoom time the whole time. That if for some reason you do need to get up, you let me know so that I can know where you're going, so you don't just disappear. So keeping your face in this space means that I can see you at all times during our Zoom meeting. So let me ask you the question I was asking yesterday. Why do we think this rule is important? Why do we think it's important to keep your face in the space? Why do you think that might be important? What do you think? I think it is important to keep your face in this space so I can see what's happening on Zoom all the time. So I can see and follow directions. So I can be paying attention to my classmates and my teachers. That's why I think it's important to keep my face in the space. What other reasons do you think it might be important? There's so many. Okay, so now that we've introduced our fourth rule, we have to do mirror words for it. So are you ready to learn our game for rule number 4? Okay, here we go. Mirror words. Rule number 4. Keep your face in the space. Rule number 4. Keep your face in the space. One more time. Rule number 4. Keep your face in the space. Mirrors down. Awesome, good job. So now we have officially learned rule number 4. So that means, we are on to our last rule. This is one that applies in the classroom as well, and that is raise your hand for permission to speak. Got a little raised hand. Raise your hand for permission to speak. So just like in class, if you would like to say something, you must raise your hand on Zoom. Everyone is on mute until you have raised your hand and I have called on you. When I have called on you, then and only then may you unmute yourself. Just like in the classroom, that you need to raise your hand to have permission to speak, that is the same thing on Zoom. You must raise your hand and stay on mute until I call on you to unmute yourself and then share what is on your mind. I love hearing all your voices, but it is very important to raise your hand for permission to speak. And why might that be important? Why do we think it is important for us to all raise our hands for permission to speak? Why is that an important rule for our Zoom classes? What do you think? I think it is important to raise your hand for permission to speak because I want to respect everyone in my class. I think it's important to take turns speaking, and if we all wait, then we all can make sure that we hear each other properly. That's why I think it's important to raise your hand for permission to speak, so we can all hear each other and respect each other's turns. What other reasons might it be important to raise your hand for permission to speak? What do you think? Okay, so now we have rule number 5, which means we got to make sure we totally learn it with our mirror words game. Okay, here we go. Another time, nice and loud. And mirror words. Rule number 5. Raise your hand for permission to speak. Rule number 5. Raise your hand for permission to speak. And rule number 5. Raise your hand for permission to speak. Mirrors down. Awesome, there we go. We can check off that we have now learned all 5 Zoom rules. But before we sign off this video, guess what? We have to do the mirror words for all of them. All 5 Zoom rules. I know you can do it with me, and I know you can do it with so much energy. So it's gonna be our last thing. We're gonna do mirror words for all 5 rules. Okay, is your mindset in the right place? Is your body ready? Here we go. And mirror words. Rule number 1. Be ready when duty calls. Rule number 2. Sit in a super learning spot. Rule number 3, dress for success. Rule number 4, keep your face in the space. Rule number 5, raise your hand for permission to speak. Mirrors down. Woohoo! Good job. We did all 5 of them. We are going to review those next week, but great work doing those. Okay, your job today, after this video, is to make your own video of you saying all 5 Zoom rules. Yesterday you did the first 3. Today you have to do them all with our mirror words that we did. So again, if you need to go back and review it, that's totally fine. But you're going to take a video of yourself saying all 5 of them. It's okay if you mess up a little bit or forget and have to go back. That's totally okay. But work to say all 5 of our Zoom rules. I know you can do it. Okay, you can practice a couple times if you want to before you take your video, but let me see what you got.